In aviation, our state airports have been real innovators, whether it's the introduction of the first duty-free in the world in Shannon or the establishment of pre-clearance across Dublin and Shannon in recent years. Our state airports have very much led the way. We've seen constructions of terminals at Dublin and at Cork, and recent construction of a new wide-body hangar at Shannon. And of course there's the construction of the runway and new control tower at Dublin Airport. Much of this facilitated by decisions taken many years ago. The department's role in all of this, of course, is to establish the right sort of policy environment and to enable these state companies to deliver for society and the wider economy.
The origins of the smoking ban, introduced in March of 2004, lies in the comprehensive tobacco bill passed through the House in 2002, a very comprehensive piece of anti-tobacco legislation. And it evolved from a synergy between myself as Minister for Health and a very committed public servant, the late Tom Power, who was an encyclopedia on the tobacco industry and knew the hurdles that we would face. From a public health perspective, it was a no-brainer in terms of the damage that tobacco was doing to our people in terms of heart disease, cancer, the two big killers of Irish people over the years. It has saved lives, and international research shows that. But in addition to that, it denormalised smoking, particularly among children and young people, and has been a significant factor in terms of preventing children and younger people from participating in smoking in the first instance. It probably was problematic for the dry cleaning industry in that the suits and clothes didn't have to get dry cleaned as much as prior to the ban. It led to a boom in terms of outdoor furniture for hotels and pubs, and I got the odd invitation to weddings by people who met out smoking and smirting as a consequence of that. The one lesson, I think, and there are many lessons obviously that emanate from the organisation of this project, but the one lesson is preparation, homework and research before you're contemplating taking on a project of this size and complexity. And that homework and preparation was the key to the eventual passage of the legislation.
The Wild Atlantic Way is the longest touring driving route in the world. Established in 2014, it covers 2,500 kilometres all the way from the Inishowen Peninsula down to Kinsale in County Cork. In order to build the Wild Atlantic Way, we consulted with over 1,500 individuals all along the west coast of Ireland. We worked closely with the 9 local authorities along the west coast and all the local communities with many consultation workshops, everyone pulling together in a collaborative way, led by the team in Fáilte Ireland. We engage with our strategic partners in the National Parks and Wildlife Service and OPW. It's about bringing all of the stakeholders together, making sure it works for the visitor, making sure it works for industry, making sure it works for communities, and making sure it works for the environment.
We're looking back over Dublin and Cork airports over the past 50 years and how important they are to the Irish economy and the island of Ireland. As an island nation, it's critically important that we invest in our airports, the infrastructure, connectivity, so that Ireland remains globally connected to the world. Being passionate about what we do, delivering for our customers, working very closely with our airline customers to grow our route network and our infrastructure. The major benefits being that Dublin and Cork airports are significant economic hubs.
Shannon Airport, in playing its part, over 50 years, has developed a lot of transatlantic traffic. As an island nation, air connectivity is just so important to us, both from a tourism perspective, but also from an economic perspective. In innovating, we've made ourselves better, and I think we've also aligned ourselves very closely with, the IEA and the airlines to make sure that this partnership and collaboration makes the airport infrastructure projects in Ireland over many years very successful. Particularly in our business, we have a lot of stakeholders, and whether that's from a safety and operational perspective to, reaping the economic benefits with someone like Tourism Ireland, who've been a great partner of ours, and that partnership is essential to any key development of project management.
This project concerns Croke Park, which is this massive, iconic venue on the north of the city. We're immensely proud of it, as I think every single parish in Ireland is, because they all have a part or an ownership of Croke Park, and I think that's what gives its unique capacity and capability. The most successful part of Croke Park goes down to the architect. The architect, Des McMahon, was originally a potter So what he has created in the stadium is this whole sense of form first before function. But that then translates into tremendous use of the stadium in all its capacities. So we've maintained Hill 16, which in many ways is a national monument, and that terracing, which is very unique to one of the biggest stadiums in Europe, allows this air change to happen on the pitch, so the pitch is really resplendent at all times during the year. I think the benefits is as a venue in the city for ourselves in the Gaelic world, it gives us a real showcase that we can have our finals there, and it is then the pinnacle of where every footballer hurler wants to go. But from a country point of view, it allowed us to stage great big events, massive concert venue, and as I say, places where we can bring dignitaries in and actually take them through the social history of the country, which is captured very well in the GA Museum, which is part of the campus. I think is having a balanced project team, and I think not just in the skill set but also in the personalities. I think and then you need a very driven, self-aware chairperson.
Guinness had an ambition to put in a world-class brand experience and visitor centre into it. So actually the complexity of the building turned out to be one of its greatest strengths. The project management people, the architects, the engineers, the design and the operations people all had to get together and come up with some really creative stuff, how to utilise this building to its best format. I think the success can be attributed to getting the right people there at the beginning in terms of creating the Guinness Storehouse. So it stood the test of time, it's done what it was designed to do, it's become a world-class, must-see part of Dublin City, and it's a great addition to the offer here in Dublin. My one tip, and there are many I could give, would be to surround yourself with the best talent possible that you can find and allow them to create and allow them the flexibility to sometimes change the scope right in the middle of the project. Don't be afraid, be brave.
The project relates to the redevelopment and regeneration of Dublin's docklands since the decline of the traditional port, and after the banking collapse as well, the construction sector was paralysed, and now we did strategic development zones which brought on redevelopment of sizable areas. I think the success was largely down to very extensive public consultation and gauging all the issues from a very early stage. There's also the fact that we had a good strong team, an adaptable team who were responsive to changes as we went along, and that we were using all available kind of planning mechanisms there and the strategic development zone legislation. I think the main benefits are that we're developing an area that is beneficial to everybody, to tourists, to the public. We've got new housing, that there's good public realm, and that we're working essentially with the merits of the older area, which is the heritage and the waterside access. I think the one tip for successful project management is very effective early public engagement and thorough research from an early stage and with the right people on the team.
Our national road network plays a vital role in connecting communities, supporting the economy, and in facilitating public transport services. I think it's easy to forget what Ireland looked like before the rollout of this really significant infrastructure. The initial vision was very much to provide a major interurban route between each of Ireland's cities and the capital, and that has really delivered a transformative effect. I suppose a decade-long programme nationwide like this one was never going to be without its challenges, but it has allowed Transport Infrastructure Ireland to develop key skill sets and project management capabilities that are of huge value as we roll out the infrastructure under Project Ireland 2040.
The motorway programme delivered between 2000 and 2010, it was a remarkable effort. There was over 100,000 people involved in delivering 1,000 kilometres over 10 years. But we got there, and we got there on time, and we got in under budget at 14 billion. It speaks well of the government's courage to have the vision to connect our 5 major cities on the island. We've achieved significant reductions in travel time and significant improvements in the certainty of travel, and significant reduction in fatal accidents. Our commitment to finishing it became a very important aspect to making it real. My one tip for a successful project is cooperation of all involved.
It's critically important that we're providing the right type of public transport infrastructure to enable people to switch to sustainable mobility and away from the private car. The Lewis project is a fantastic example of delivery around this, facilitated by Transport Infrastructure Ireland and working with the National Transport Authority. Of course, passengers have flocked to Luas since its introduction, reaching 41 million just last year. We take our oversight and governance role tremendously seriously at a departmental level, and I know our agencies do too. And this is something that we need to work further on as we roll out more of this infrastructure under Project Ireland 2040.
I'm here to talk to you about the Luas program of projects, which resulted in the light rail for Dublin. 43 kilometers of light rail, which is among the most successful in Europe and in the world. It has been a long journey that started in the late 90s, and I have the privilege of being involved since 2001 in various roles. The project I would like to focus the most on, though, is the latest addition to the Luas network, which is Luas Cross City. And the reason why it was challenging is that the date of opening was set in a business case in 2012, and we had to keep it. And for anybody in project management, you know that that's a key factor of risk. And we had to do unprecedented things to achieve that, mainly revolving around the collaboration among stakeholders in the private sector, in the industry, and in government. We had to apply for 2,000 permits to close the roads and do works. 2,000. It involved a coordination with all stakeholders. The major benefits obviously are the benefits to passengers, but also the renewed traffic control networks, public lighting networks, utility networks. Also, during the delivery of the project, we kept the business moving. Footfall increased consistently in Dublin City during the construction of Luas Cross City. And that's thanks to a very sensitive construction management approach. Build the bridges before you need them. So, cooperation with stakeholders.